got a drawer full of tools you actually know how to use. Not decorative, not for show. Real tools. Handles marked by use. Rubber grips worn down to metal. Things that have been lent out and returned a little worse than before. You've fixed wiring, patched what was broken, heard a strange sound before anyone else even noticed it was there. You've stayed up late figuring something out step by step, improvising your way through it, and it worked, and you didn't tell anyone, because why would you? Somewhere along the way, you became the person people turn to when things fall apart. The late night calls, the I don't know who else to talk to moments, and you take them on the same way you take on everything else, without hesitation, without making it look like it costs you anything, even when it does. So, why is it when your back gives out halfway through, moving something that clearly needed two people, you still pause and try to calculate if you can finish it alone? Before even considering asking for help, that reaction doesn't come from nowhere. Yes, there's some stubbornness in it, but that's not the whole story. There's a certain kind of person who learns early on that the most reliable way to get something done is to do it themselves. Sometimes that lesson comes from obvious places, support that wasn't there, people who were unpredictable or unavailable. But more often, it's something quieter, a moment where help didn't quite show up, a situation where asking felt like adding pressure, a time when needing something made things harder, not easier. And even as a kid, you noticed, you adjusted, you became the one who figures things out. And once that pattern forms, it doesn't just disappear when circumstances change, it settles in, it becomes familiar, it becomes identity. So now, years later, you're genuinely good at solving problems. That's real. You built that, and your sense of self starts to organize around it. Being capable, being dependable, being the one people call when something breaks. So asking for help doesn't just feel inconvenient, it feels like it doesn't fit, like it goes against something fundamental. And here's what often gets misunderstood: it's not that people like this think they're better than others, it's not about ego. The resistance comes from something much more human. Asking for help means pausing and sitting in the experience of not knowing, of being the one who can't fix it immediately. And that exact experience is something you've trained yourself to move past as quickly as possible. So when it shows up again, it doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels almost unnatural, like something to avoid without thinking. There's an interesting pattern researchers have found. People consistently underestimate how willing others are to help them. They expect hesitation, they expect rejection, but in reality, people agree to help far more often than expected. So the issue isn't availability, it's perception, or more precisely, it's the meaning attached to asking, because the real question happening internally isn't, will they help me? It's, what does it say about me if I need help at all? And for someone whose identity is built on being capable, that question carries weight. People who fix things often develop a strong connection to competence. There's a specific kind of satisfaction in finding a problem and resolving it. When something that didn't work suddenly does, it's not about attention, it's not about recognition, it's quieter than that. It feels like proof. Each fixed problem becomes a small piece of evidence, a confirmation of who you are, which also means when something doesn't have a clear solution, when you're standing in front of it without answers, that registers too, even if you don't consciously say it. Emotionally, this pattern shows up in other ways. If you're the person who stays calm in difficult moments, the one who turns confusion into a plan, being on the receiving end of support can feel surprisingly uncomfortable. Someone tries to sit with you, to understand what you're going through, and almost automatically you shift into problem solving. I'm fine. I've already figured it out. Here's what I'm going to do. Because fixing feels familiar. Being supported doesn't. Sometimes Being supported feels more uncomfortable than dealing with it alone. And underneath all of this, there's often a quieter belief that needing help is a burden, that showing up with a problem means taking something from someone else. That belief doesn't appear randomly, it usually forms early. From watching someone overwhelmed, from sensing that there wasn't much space for extra needs, from learning, directly or indirectly, that asking made things heavier. So you stopped asking, and over time, that became the default. Here's where it becomes complicated. People like this are often incredibly supportive of others. They show up, they listen, they fix what they can, and they would never make someone feel like a burden for asking. Not even once. In fact, they'd push back against that idea completely, and yet they still believe it applies to them. If something in you reacted to that, you probably recognize it. And the solution isn't simply just ask for help more. That kind of advice skips over what's actually happening. Real change here is slower. It involves gradually updating the internal story about what asking for help really means, not forcing yourself into it, not treating it like a task, but genuinely considering a different possibility. That needing something doesn't take anything away from who you are, that the people in your life aren't only there to receive what you give. Some of the most capable people have simply learned to operate without being helped so consistently that it no longer feels like something missing. It just feels like personality, like this is just how I am. And maybe it is part of you, but it doesn't have to define the limits of you. You don't lose anything by allowing support in. The skills are still there. The reliability is still there. The ability to fix things doesn't disappear. You can still be the person people turn to. That doesn't change, but you're also allowed to not carry everything alone, to pause before pushing through, to consider letting someone step in, even if it feels unfamiliar at first, even if it feels slightly uncomfortable. That doesn't mean something is wrong. It just means it's new. And sometimes that's where the shift begins. If this felt familiar to you, take a moment to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd be interested to hear what part stayed with you the most.